All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. JimmyChurchRadio.com. I am your host, Jimmy Church, live from Burbank, California. From the Galpin Ford Studios right here in sunny Burbank. This section of the show is brought to you by National Tax Experts. 877-909-5444. This is The Revolution. We will always give it to you straight. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Shoot me an email right now to Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com. We're live in the studio with Hilton J. Palm, the Deacon Dogs, Charlie, the Scheckinator, Scheckenstein, Scheckenberger, Scheckman. And on the phone right now, talking about these Rajon Rondo for Pau Gasol rumors, we have the senior NBA writer from hoopsworld.com, Eric Pincus, who lives here in L.A., and I think he's got his finger on the pulse of what is going on here with L.A. basketball. Everybody knows that about Eric. Eric, are you with us?
I am. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. First, I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm going to ask you some very direct questions. And the first thing that I need to know, I think everybody would like to know, beyond Mitch Kupchak, and by the way, I read your article today. Great job on that. But after Mitch Kupchak, are there any, without naming names, is there anything else that is giving teeth to these rumors?
Absolutely. I mean, it's early in the process, and all teams are kind of feeling out what their options are. I was contacted by a source of mine who I trust and know for many years, who actually informed me that the Celtics are interested in Pau Gasol, and that was really the original notion here. And I was just doing some follow-up research, as I do, and I happened to remember that Kupchak had an interview with Mike Trudell of Lakers.com and had mentioned something about liking a point guard, obviously. So I went and looked at the exact quote, and honestly, I've talked to Mitch for, I don't know, maybe 9-10 years, as long as I've been doing this, and have had different conversations. But I've always found him to be somewhat of a literal speaker, that if you actually listen to what he's saying, he's pretty much saying what he means. He just avoids questions he doesn't want to answer. And he did. I mean, is there everyone knows, including Derek Fisher, that the Lakers need a starting point guard. And he just happened to mention that Mitch Kupchak did that he was interested and would love to have a 25-year-old ball-handling all-star. And I looked around after having heard that the Celtics were interested in Pau, and I noticed that's exactly how old Rondo is. There's only one 25-year-old all-star point guard in the entire league.
Do you think, well, I'm going to cut you. Do you think that was a Freudian slip, or do you think that was intentional? Because it is direct, the 25-year-old reference.
It's just the way that Mitch Kupchak talks. I remember, and I cited this in the article, there was a season ticket holder event back before they drafted Andrew Bynum, and he was asked about who he liked in the draft, and he said there's a high school kid we would hate to see go to another team. And so the initial thought was, there was a Gerald Green kid at the same time, and the Lakers were linked to him, and it was Andrew Bynum. But then later he said almost the same thing about a 17-year-old kid. And really, if you were paying attention, and of course no one really was at the time because it's just one of those things, the only person that described was Andrew Bynum. Now, of course, he could have meant 26, and he might have meant Chris Paul, and maybe he was just generalizing. But that's not really the source of the article. The source of the article I had before I even noticed that quote. And that you look at the Celtics, and they traded away Kendrick Perkins and really got nothing for him. They got Jeff Green, and that kind of turned out to be a disaster. They do have some other considerations, a draft pick, which is a Clipper pick. But the deal has not gone favorable. And if you look at what the Celtics tried to do over the summer, they tried to sign David West or trade for David West.
That's right.
He's a similar type player to Pau Gasol in that he's a power forward, an all-star, over 30, and they offered him a 3-year deal. So if you look at Gasol, he's got 2 more years, so that would correspond exactly to Paul Pierce's run. It would correspond exactly to what they were offering David West as far as years. So it fits a lot of angles. And ultimately, you look at what the Celtics have right now outside of Kevin Garnett, and really you're talking very little. Jermaine O'Neal,
right,
who's pretty much well past done, and they've got Brendan Bass, who's a nice player. I would say that he's probably a high-level reserve power forward. But they don't have a center. They don't have any true size.
Well,
and they do have this kid, Avery Bradley, and they have spending power. I mean, over the summer, maybe they can go after an Aaron Brooks or someone like him,
Well, that's exactly where I'm going next with this. I mean, I would almost have to say that this would be a 3-team deal. I mean, what would the Celtics do at point guard if this trade goes down? They would start Avery Bradley?
Well, I mean, when Rondo got hurt, first of all, the Celtics started poorly. We're losing a lot of games. And then Rondo got hurt, and they played this kid, Avery Bradley, who they've been developing for a couple of years now. He's already a better defender than Rondo, and Rondo's a good defender. Bradley is not – he's a better shooter, by the way, but he's not the same kind of creative passer. So clearly the Celtics have Keon dueling. They don't have a lot there. But the best GMs plan 2-3 moves ahead. And you have to know that when you're making these deals, you can't solve all your problems in one. You got to get your foundational pieces in,
right?
And then you go from there. So you look at the Lakers. Well, what would they do at power forward? They would have some issues. What would the Celtics do at point guard? But these are two teams that are probably not going to win the title this year. Now, do they have a shot? Of course. And even after this trade, would they have more of a shot? It depends on your perspective. But there's nothing worse for a championship-level team or any team to be a good team, but not a great team. You don't want to be in the middle.
Would you see Steve Blake involved in this trade to possibly replace Rajon Rondo? I mean, he would be a more effective player than Avery Bradley, number one. And number two, what would Rajon actually bring in this deal to the Lakers? He's not known as a shooter. Are the Lakers looking for a point guard that can shoot, like a Derrick Rose or a Darren Williams or a Chris Paul type of point guard? Or are they not concerned about shooting right now? What do you think?
Well, look, there's a few aspects. Let's start with the Steve Blake. The only names that I can associate to source material would be Rondo and Paul. But when teams make deals, they make bigger deals than what leaks. They don't usually. Usually you hear about the principals. The Lakers would have to get someone like Jermaine O'Neal or Brendan Bass back to make that even. And then if you throw in a Steve Blake, you have to send corresponding math back and forth. But let's say Steve Blake went, I don't know. I don't know if he's the answer here. I just can't speak to that. We can all speculate and run numbers and come up with things. But I didn't have anything sourced on that, and so I'm not going to throw it into the article. But everyone's certainly welcome to play with it. But as far as Rondo and the Lakers need a point guard. Obviously, in the worst way, in that even Steve Blake, their backup, is getting there as far as age. I forget how old he is. I think he's even over 30.
Yes, he is. He's 31.
Right, 31. So they have this kid Darius Morris, who they like and expect.
And they've just cut Derek Character. They released Derek Character.
They did release Derek Character. They have Darius Morris at point guard, who's a rookie. They have issues as far as. Right now, how do you win with a team where you have Powell and Andrew? And to be honest, they haven't quite meshed the way that the team had hoped. And Jim Buss, Mitch Kupchak, whoever, the decision has been made that Andrew Bynum is the centerpiece moving forward. Now, maybe that changes to be Dwight Howard. I don't know. Certainly, it's something to think about. But in the absence of that, they're saying Andrew Bynum is our guy.
Right.
And to be honest, you need to have a team built around Andrew and Kobe to make it work, and Powell is kind of not playing to his strengths, and they have nothing at point guard. So when you say shooting, they absolutely need to improve their shooting.
What do you think? Okay, go ahead.
But to improve their shooting, you're not going to get the best shooter in Rondo, but Rondo's already a better shooter than what they have, and he's going to get better shots for everybody and run a true offense, whereas the point guards the Lakers have are very limited.
Now, of course, Derek Fisher is hearing all of the same media rumors that we hear. How do you think he's going to take something like this, knowing that Rajon's going to come in to be the starting point guard? Is he that much of? I mean, where's his head? Do you think he's willing to sit on the bench and rotate with Rajon?
I mean, ultimately, every player wants to be the starter. Every player wants to be the guy. Derek Fisher's been a professional. He's been with this organization for a really long time, almost his entire career. I don't think you're going to have any sort of professional problem with Derek Fisher. He's going to come in and do whatever is asked of him. He's been on the bench before. He's come and been a starter. He was demoted. He was brought back in. Remember, he was demoted when Gary Payton came over. So he's a professional guy. He's a tremendous asset to the team in a lot of ways. I just don't know if it's in a starting point guard role. And Mitch Kupchak has been really open about it, and has admitted this, basically all that. I imagine he would have said the same thing to Derek, because Mitch is not the kind of guy who's going to say something to the media and not say it to the player too. So I think Derek sees the writing on the wall, and it would be happy just contributing if he can help this team win another ring, and if that means coming off the bench, so be it.
Well, I agree, and I had said all year long, this is in preseason, the point guard position for the Lakers is the issue. If they could fix that, if they could somehow, because everybody was disappearing, all the elite guys in the league. Everybody was getting signed. We had this Chris Paul issue. We don't need to go and kick a dead horse there, but that's the one thing that, for me, the piece of the puzzle that I think the Lakers could move forward as complete. I would hate to see Pau Gasol go, but the way that this season has developed now, they both can't touch the ball. I'm talking about Andrew Bynum. They both can't touch the ball enough, and I like the way that Andrew has developed, and I think that everybody feels that the decision has been made there. Who would you let go of first? And I think Pau Gasol has shown that.
Well, I mean, you're saying essentially, in my mind, what the Lakers feel, and some might say, "Oh, well, Andrew is injury prone; he might get hurt." I mean, that's life. That's how it is.
That's right. That's right.
If they were so concerned about that and they weren't ready to build around him, they would not have traded Lamar Odom. They would have gone in a different direction. They would have looked to trade Andrew. But this was the decision. So when you make a decision, you live with it. And as you say, you can't play three post players who need the ball. And Kobe is a post player at this point, among other things. And so is Pau, and so is Andrew. And so what you have is you're putting Pau too far from the basket. He becomes passive. Doesn't play to his strengths, and then defensively, yeah, they're long and tall, taller than most teams in the league. But some of the best rebounders out there, I mean, Kevin Love is relatively short. Blake Griffin, even Reggie Evans, Anderson Varejao. These are guys who are mobile guys who can move around a lot, and the Lakers are not mobile enough defensively. They're not mobile enough offensively, and Pau is the best ticket, and maybe their only ticket to a high-level point guard. Now, you can go and say, let's go get, if you're the Lakers, go get Ramon Sessions or Johnny Flynn, and that won't cost much. But do those guys really take the Lakers from a pretty good team to a great team? And I would say that, no, that helps them a little bit, granted. But it depends what you're trying to do. Are you trying to make the playoffs and get to the second round, or are you trying to win a title? And I don't know if those moves do that unless you take a bigger splash and a bigger swing. And that's what this would be.
Eric, informative as always. You are the man. You want to come on again with us again soon?
Of course, anytime.
That's Eric Pincus, senior NBA writer from hoopsworld.com. This is Jimmy Church Radio. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.